waking from sleep, and once I open my phones after my prayers, I open my phone, I saw all these kind of messages and all that, and I said, let me make this video to correct this impression, about the words that I'm using. Do not make caricature of it. I am advising you, do not make caricature of it so that the wrath of God will not come upon you. Stop it. Stop it.
Hello everyone, I welcome you all back to this channel, Everyday Documentary. This is the channel where we highlight and celebrate notable everyday achievers in sports, entertainment, arts, history, literature, media, politics, and everything in between. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about something in the line of religion, particularly in Nigeria, Africa. Religion, as we know, has become an area of special interest to Africans generally, and specifically Nigerians, because I'm in Nigeria and I grew up in Nigeria. I'm still very much connected and linked with people back home and with happenings across the country. And in the past few weeks, 2 weeks or thereabouts, there has been this trend on social media about a certain church called the Lord's Chosen Charismatic Church or something like that. They're always known to always put on apron with lemon green color. They go around on the streets, in the marketplaces, even when they're in their church. Everywhere they go, you see them wearing the apron, and that's more like their signature appearance or their signature look. When you see any church person putting on this apron with certain inscriptions on the chest at the front of the apron, that you know that the person belongs to the chosen church. And then you actually have seen the name, the Lord's Chosen, and with some other things that are usually printed at the front of the apron. Yeah, so it's about the Lord's Chosen. There's a lot that have been said about certain videos that has gone viral from some of the testimonies that were shared by few members of this chosen church in Nigeria, and then they didn't appear believable. They seemed quite dramatic, quite like a written script. They look so funny, some of them laughable, and then people have gone about dragging the church, criticizing the members of the Lord's Chosen Church as to why they've come up with such testimonies that do not exactly look believable. And then it has been a thing of concern for the Christians generally, and it has even brought about some level of division, some level of contention amongst Christians and church goers generally in Nigeria. Some are of the opinion that this so-called miraculous happenings, that the members of this church that came out publicly on their church altar to share, that this testimony they have come out to share, were not real. They were scripted, and they were said to be lying or to have told lies. Personally too, I have a level of concern with some of the testimonies that these guys have shared so far, but I have my reservations. I'm not going to make comments on those testimonies as to whether they were real or unreal. It is between those who were sharing the testimonies and God, and probably the persons who are the authorities in the churches, in this church. It's left to them to decide or to conclude in their hearts that, we've actually told these people some lies out there, and they found out that we've lied to them. Or if those testimonies happen to be real, if they happen to be true life events, then it's left for them to face it and say, oh God, these are testimonies of things that you did for us, and we've shared it with the people of the world, for them to believe that you still make moves, powerful moves amongst us, but they refuse to believe us. But we are not going to do anything to convince or to compel anyone to believe that these miracles were real. Yeah, that's how it is. I believe in miracles. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I believe in miracles. But at the same time, I believe that miraculous happenings do not necessarily have to be dramatic or look magical. So where I'm having an issue is when it is a practice or it has become a custom for a particular church or certain church denominations to always come out and dramatize miraculous events as a trademark for their church all the time in order for them to promote their church or to create some kind of prayer stunts for their church. That's where I have an issue. When the only thing that comes out or that proceeds from the altars of the church will only be about miracle, something disappear, something carried me from one place, an angel whispering something to me, an answer to me during exams, a lion, carrying me on its back and flying through the kilometers and then landing somewhere and then waving to me bye bye. I have an issue when that is the only thing that a Christian church pushes out as a content from their church. If that is the only content that they have decided to always create and promote to the world, then I'm having an issue with the branch of Christianity that they practice in such a church. But at the same time, I'm not going to judge anyone, but I believe everyone is left with their conscience to judge if they were telling the truth or telling lies. But generally, it has become more like a norm in Nigeria for pastors, most especially the ones referred to as the GOs, the general overseers of some of these Pentecostal churches, to come out from time to time and claim to possess certain powers, to possess certain special powers given to them by God. That's what they claim, and they begin to say things that do not really help the body of Christ. In order for them to promote their church and probably draw more crowd to themselves, they tend to create all kinds of misleading and disturbing information they send it to the public, because a lot of people are gullible due to the fact that there's so much poverty and suffering in that part of the world. These pastors for some of the times believe that they have to create some sort of content that will attract members of the public to their church, and such content is a type that is designed to make people have the belief that they have this special power in their church that is capable of solving their problems of poverty, diseases, healing their diseases, empowering them with special power that will stand them out, that will make them excel in their businesses or at work. Even if they have refused to do anything spectacular, the special power and anointing that they must have received from their GO, from their pastor, is just enough for them to excel, which is something that is very disturbing in itself. So this pastor come out from time to time and say, in our church we've got power, special potent power by which we perform so many miracles, and as a result, the central message of Christianity, which is about the death of Christ and his resurrection, that has enabled us or has offered us a chance or a privilege or an opportunity to be saved, to live a godly life, to live a righteous life, and to live a peaceful life, has been relegated to the background. What we now hear most of these churches proclaim from time to time is the campaign about having power to heal people or to enrich their members or to give them certain special favors above other people, even if they haven't done anything to deserve this level of successes or level of excellence that they desire to attain. By virtue of being a part of that church, you are just qualified, you are just certain to enjoy those very special favor, which I don't think is right message to preach. But because that is what people want to hear, they troop into such churches and then they believe they are best positioned in such an environment where they are constantly told about their chances of making it in a very big way, even if they haven't done so much to really warrant. I kept emphasizing the word if they have not done something, if you have not put in your best effort, if you have not worked hard and diligently enough, if you have not competed with the best brains out there, and then made sure that you have done something extra, you have done something extraordinary to stand you out and make you to be the best amongst the rest, is just are gonna enjoy all of these benefits because you belong to the church, and because you are a Christian, you come to church. Being a Christian and going to church does not necessarily qualify one for special successes. There are certain global principles that one has got to adhere to if one is ever gonna make a headway. So the churches, most of these Pentecostal 21st century churches, just come out and promise their members heaven and earth. Just do this is gonna happen. It's like magic. So a lot of promises are made to these people that once you pay a certain amount in terms of offering and special seeds, then things are just gonna begin to work for you, which does not work like that. Christian message is not about you paying a certain offering for you to get certain things done. That is not how to work. But because of the fact that most of the poorest nations in the world, amongst whom are lots of African countries, have been plagued by the problem or challenge of bad leadership, they just turn to religion as a way of helping themselves to get over the depressive experience of belonging to a nation where the leaders are incapable and are unready to do the right thing, but rather they want to continue to impoverish the people. So where all the hopes that people have put on the government, the leaders, political leaders, have been dashed, they rather turn to the pastors, to the church, as a way of finding succor, a way of finding consolation. And a lot of times the expectations of most of these people that go to church are usually dashed, because attaining certain successes in life do not only rely or depend on how much you pray, how much of seed offering you have dropped in church from time to time, or how much of speaking in tongues that you do on a daily basis. There are certain practical things you need to do: putting in your best, working hard enough, investing, changing your mindset, educating your mind, making effort at becoming your best, searching for information that's going to be useful, that's going to help you in getting ahead in your career or in your businesses. And after you must have done all of that, then you cannot pray and say, God, I have done my best, I need you to help me and intervene. Send your divine intervention right now. I need some intervention through your divine power for the rest of this work to be done. I've done my part, because there are a lot of factors that go into determining how far people go, how successful people become. But at first you've got to do your own part and then pray to divinity and say, oh God Almighty, I need your help me out with the remaining perfecting of the work for me to succeed. So that's how it works. Not trusting entirely on the power of the divinity, not just trusting wholly and entirely on the divine power and refusing to do your own part of the work that's going to grant you some success. It doesn't work that way. But because of the fact that people tend to see themselves as being entirely hopeless due to the country where they live, where there's so much poverty as a result of the corruption that is going on amongst the leadership of the country. These leaders do not expend the nation's resources effectively and wisely. They squander this money, they steal some of them, and as a result of this, nothing meaningful is done. Real development are supposed to be experienced in some of these nations are nowhere to be found. The basic amenities and facilities that the citizens of this country ought to enjoy, they don't see it anywhere. Things as basic as good quality and affordable food, water, good transport system, electricity, good healthcare system, good education, just to mention a few, are nowhere available. So people tend to turn to religion as an alternative way of getting these things in place for themselves. They are usually promised that all you have to do is pay seed offering, pray, speak in tongues and pray, and all your problems are gonna be solved. So when this does not happen, people are discouraged. They begin to move around, look for places where miracles occur. But of course, miracles happen every day. I personally am a beneficiary of God's miracle. I have experienced lots of miracles. Like I said earlier, miracles don't necessarily have to be dramatic. They don't necessarily have to look like magic. So when these churches come out and say, oh, in our church we got some special power that will make us to just be immune to all the challenges and all the problems all around, nothing harmful that happens to other people can happen to us because I belong to this church. That is not actually what the Bible tells us. The Bible promises protection. The Bible promises that we will go out, come back safely. Say he will keep his angels charge over us. God promises us through the scriptures to protect us from evil. Yes, he said he will keep his angels charge over us to keep us in all our ways, and our pathway is life and there is no death. He said 1,000 shall fall by our side and 10,000 by our right side, but they will not come near us. But only with our eyes we will watch and see the destruction of the wicked. Yes, these promises are there, but that does not necessarily mean that as a Christian, as a church, all that you have to always focus on the miraculous, dramatic, miraculous experiences. The message of the gospel does not have to be about miraculous happening, because when you've told people that in your church you perform miracles, by the way, no man performs any miracles, no pastor performs miracles. God is the one that performs miracles. Most of the times when these miracles even occurs, it is because God has allowed it to happen at that particular point in time and at that particular venue or church, as the case may be. Yes, miracles happen, but the fact still remains, the central message of the gospel does not always have to hinge on miraculous happenings, dramatic, magical looking experiences that people tend to portray from across their churches. So that is not what it is, and that is about that. A lot has been happening in recent weeks, how certain pastors have come out to claim that they have special items that they sell, and then if their members came out to purchase those items, it is sure to deliver them, to save them, to bless them, to give them special covering and safety. They believe it is only with the use of these items that they can receive certain blessings and protection. A pastor came out, I'm not going to mention their names, the pastor came out and said he sells miracle water, miracle soap and miracle keys. So potent that if the members of his church come forward to purchase these items and use them, they are sure to receive some extraordinary supernatural experiences, and then things will just begin to work. Drink the water to solve some of your problems. Use this key, just take this key home, it's beginning to open certain doors that have been closed. Rub this soap on yourself, or you use it to bathe, and then it's gonna wash off all your problems, which has even caused some uproar in the social media, because a certain social media influencer began to drag this church and actually submitted a petition at NAFDAC, the commission that is in charge of endorsing products that people use on their body, food and drink administration. NAFDAC is National Agency for Food and Drug Commission. So anything that has to do with drugs, cream, water, soap, food, anything that is used on human body or that is consumed by human body has to be verified before they can be taken to the market to be sold. It got to that extent that this person has to petition NAFDAC to go to this church and make sure that these products are verified by this commission, and ensure that people are not being given something that's going to be harmful to them at the end of the day in the name of religion or in the name of spiritual strengthening. And then the case is still dragging at the moment, but that's a discussion for another time. Secondly, another pastor came and said he called a member of his church who was somewhere in Europe, I think in France, and then this person needed to return to the US or go to the US from France, and then I wouldn't know what the problem was, but he couldn't normally travel to the US from France via regular air flight. That maybe his passport wasn't available, maybe he didn't have money for ticket, I wouldn't know, but he commanded through the phone. He called this member of his church and ordered him to go into one of the toilets at the airport where he was. He entered into the toilet. He asked, what should I go to do in the toilet? I said, just go in there. And then after this member of his church had entered into the toilet, he asked him to come out again. And by the time he came out of this toilet this time around, he found himself coming out from the airport in US that he intended to fly to originally. And then that shows that power. He's got power to perform these miracles, and then that's a typical example of the type of power that he possesses, you know, that implying that anyone that comes to his church, or as many as are connected to him or identify with him or belongs to his church, they are sure to experience this supernatural, miraculous happenings. That's about that. And also, before we do this, chosen church guys came out, and then miracles or claims of miracles that they experienced, that they have shared on the altars of their church, began to go viral. I said there were 3 different ones that went viral. The first one said it was caught by kidnappers going somewhere, and it was kept somewhere alongside other people, and then one of the kidnappers made effort to stab him with a cutlass, with a machete, and he placed this machete on his head in order to not injure him, and the machete wasn't working. He just bounced on his head, bam, and then bounced off. And the guy made an attempt to slap him, and the hand of this kidnapper just hung in the air and wasn't moving. Yeah, we're just saying things like that. Another lady came up and said she wanted to write the professional exams. She was in the army or in the military, one of these military parastatals, and then there was a section of the exams where she knew none of the questions that were asked in that section. About 10 questions that an angel of the Lord appeared to her and then revealed all the answers to her, and which I don't think could happen, because God is not partial. You are supposed to read and prepare for your exams. This is how it could work. If you forgot the answers to questions that you prepared for normally, and then in the middle of exams you are not able to remember some of the things that you've read or the exact answers to the questions in front of you, you can pray and then God reminds you of the things you've read. But if you haven't read anything and others have read, you will not expect God, who is a just God, to just single you out and send angels to come and provide the answers to you. You ought to prepare for these exams, and then in the middle of the exams an angel will start conversing with you and then giving you answers to the question. That's malpractice right there. That's malpractice right there. And then it's actually a criminal law in most countries. Even in Nigeria, it's a criminal law. It's not malpractice. So how do you defend the fact that God himself sent an angel to provide answers to you during an exam that you ought to have prepared yourself for by yourself? And it was being celebrated in this church. And another one said he was stranded or was headed somewhere, and a lion just appeared from nowhere and carried him on its back. This lion carried this man or this uncle on its back and flew him, through many miles, and landed him somewhere and said, after they got to a particular junction, the lion dropped him and raised its hand and said, go this way, go this direction, just go there and escape and go away, and then wave and say bye bye. You know, it looks ridiculous. But this is what you get when you find yourself in a country that is very religious, that will do everything to defend their religion, to defend their churches, to defend their pastors, and to defend their religious practices. Everybody has got right to their religion. Right to religion is enshrined in the constitution, but at the same time, it can make people to become very illogical. Well, I don't like arguing the issue of faith. I'll just tell you the facts of what I know based on my knowledge of the Word of God and leave the rest. But my focus today is on the statement made by a young man who happens to be, according to him, he happens to be a member of the chosen church. You know, days after these viral videos of these miraculous testimonies, you know, have gone about being discussed, being analyzed, being dissected by members of the public, you know, across Nigeria, even across the world, everywhere. I've heard a number of persons saying, oh, well, maybe we should just leave these guys alone. Maybe that's what happened. We never could tell. Yes, I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to contest that, and I'm not going to say we should make them appear like they are liars. They are actually liars. I'm not going to say that, and I'm not going to say I believe entirely in those testimonies that were shared. Mine is believe whatever you have to believe, but as a Christian church, it is to make the central message of your ministry to be all about promoting hard work, promoting law and orderliness in the nation. These are things I expect the church should always promote and propagate all the time. But that's by the way again. But this young man came out and said, oh, all of you that came out criticizing my church, you need to be careful so that we do not send fire to consume all of you, because we've got power to deal with all of you that are saying rubbish. You better stop saying all of this rubbish, criticizing our church, making mockery of these testimonies that were shared, blah 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 blah. You have to stop it, otherwise we'll send fire to consume you.
I am advising you, do not make caricature of it so that the wrath of God will not come upon you. Stop it.
Hello, please, this is to warn the public to please stop using my church to catch crews. I am a choosing. You don't have to use it as a joke. It is more spiritual than you think. There are Roman Catholics, Anglicans, and other Pentecostal church. These testimonies they are giving, you won't understand them. You have to be spiritually balanced for you to be able to know these things. It is not about the earthly things. Please stop using this church to catch crews. This is out of hand. Don't play with fire. The Lord of choosing will not take it easy on you and your family. There are things you don't have to play with in the internet. I'm just giving this as a sound of warning and as an advice to you people using it all over the world. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. People, there are different churches. There are different churches around the world. Here, the Anglican, Catholic, other Pentecostal church. I don't know why you people are using my church to catch crews. For what? Please, it's no longer funny. Please, it's no longer funny, so that you not lay curse on yourself. Thank you.
And that was when I became concerned, and it was actually at that point that I decided to make this video and say something. And I said, oh, I'm gonna have to talk about this. Number one, as a Christian or as followers of Christ, whatever power that you are possessed that you feel you can use at will, you should rather use that power for a good cause. If truly you are a Christian, the Bible says, love your enemies, love your neighbor as yourself. Let's say you don't even have a neighbor, you don't have anyone you want to love. This same Bible says, love your enemy and then pray for those who despitefully use you. These are the words of Christ. So rather than using that power that you think you possess and sending fire upon people who criticize your church, why don't you pray for them for forgiveness and for them to experience true conversion? You don't have to send fire on them. That's number one. The second part of what I was going to say or the comment I was going to make towards that claim is the fact that there are a whole lot of issues, you know, that the people of Nigeria as a whole have been plagued with over the years, over the decades. There's so much corruption in the land, there's so much evil being perpetrated by politicians. People steal money that was meant to be used for the public use, that was meant to be spent in developing the nation. These people go about converting this money for their personal purposes, personal use, and personal aggrandizement. Why don't you rather send this fire to destroy these evil politicians that steal money and make life difficult for the people? That's one. There are kidnappers, there are armed robbers, there are killers who harm people every now and then in that same society. There's so much insecurity. There are bandits, there are terrorists that parade themselves all over the place. The government is not able to handle them, is not able to bring them to book. I would rather have expected that if you possess such a potent power that could actually cause some fire to be sent to certain persons because they criticize your church, why don't you rather send it to these evil people? Because even this young man that was claimed to possess this power, or that claimed his church possesses this power, he lives also in that country where there's so much insecurity. I will be happy, I will be glad if I am hearing that, oh, some of these powerful churches that possesses special power have gone about sending fire to bandits, to terrorists, to politicians, evil politicians who contribute to the difficulty that people experience on a daily basis, and send this fire to them. All this power they possess that they threaten people with, in our church we possess power, if you talk against us we send fire on you, we make sure that, you know, we deal with you. Rather use this power that you possess in dealing with those evil people in the society, not to threaten the people that you ought to be saving, that you ought to preach to save their souls. So that is where I have a problem. You have the power, okay, use it to do the right thing, to deal with evil in the society, rather than threatening people with. That's all I've got to say. It is until when we get to this point where we begin to know what our priority is as a people, that is when we know that we are ready for the positive changes that we desire, that we all cry for, that we all shout for every day. We all have a role to play. The politicians, the pastors, Christians, Muslims, traditionalists, we have a role to play. You can't be brandishing power as a Christian, as a churchgoer, when you can't use that power for any good of the society. Rather, you want to use it for destruction of people who are going about their businesses, but because they criticize your church, you feel, yeah, it's best to use such power and destroy them. So if that power really was in existence, then use it to do the right thing by dealing with evil people in society. Otherwise, all you churchgoers that claim to possess certain power, special power, and you want to harm other people with it, you have to shut up, because that power really doesn't exist anywhere. That's all I have to say. God bless you all. God bless Nigeria. God bless Africa. God bless Europe. God bless the UK. God bless the US. God bless you all. I want to implore you all to continue to support this channel by subscribing to the channel, and then let me know your view. Kindly drop your comments and share this video, and let's continue to educate and enlighten one another and grow together. And have a lovely day and lovely week and lovely month ahead, and remain blessed. God bless you.